Hello all, welcome back to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name's Chris Fletcher and it's season 11. This season we have ZenZap as our sponsor for the Tech on Toast podcast. And if you're in hospitality, you know how chaotic managing a team can get. Don't worry, ZenZap is here to change that. Now, I've been using ZenZap for my own team at Tech on Toast, and honestly, I don't know how we've managed without it. It's a game changer for keeping everything organised. Instead of juggling endless email threads, WhatsApp groups, and random sticky notes around my office, we've got everything in one place. Conversations sorted by topic, tasks assigned and tracked without fuss, and files right at your fingertips when you need them. And for you guys in the restaurants, it's a no-brainer. The kitchen team can report supply issues in a dedicated chat. Managers can roll out new specials to the front of house instantly, and task assignments like prepping for a big event, all handled effortlessly. And my absolute favourite part, ZenZap keeps your work life separate from your personal life. No more work messages clogging up my WhatsApp, and no more 10 p.m. pings from my team ruining my downtime. It's intuitive, secure, and works on any device, so you're always connected but always in control. If you're ready to simplify your team's comms and get your evenings back, try ZenZap for free. No card needed, zenzap.co. Go check it out. Big thanks to ZenZap. Big thanks to all of you for coming to listen. Should we get on with it? I think so. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the next episode of Tech on Toast podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by two Eds. I should just bring them in here. Ed Goodwin and Ed Grimes. How are you, chaps?
You're very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for asking. Not everyone asks how I am. And the guys are here today to talk about their products. Talent Unlimited is what you trade under, but what is the actual name of the product? Ed Grimes?
The product is called Talent Unlimited, but our AI recruitment assistant is called Sophie.
Sophie, there we go. We'll get into the reason behind that name in a second. But Ed Godwin, I was just saying off air to someone before actually that I think people traded well in the last quarter of the year and that things were looking healthy going into next year. That must help you guys, I suppose, or give you confidence about the market as we move forward.
It's always a litmus test, isn't it? The Christmas season and how it all fares, and the people we're speaking to seem broadly positive about results, and that sets us up nicely for a year of what will contain some challenges, but it's always good to get off to a good start.
Yes, the challenges are definitely coming on the next quarter, at the start of next quarter, aren't they? And Ed Grimes, I stopped you in your tracks before. You were talking about Sophie. Tell us a little bit, I suppose, your best pitch for your product, what it actually does for people listening in who've never heard about it before.
Yeah, so Sophie, and just to go back to the point you made earlier, Sophie is the name of my daughter, and the reason why we call our platform Sophie is because saying our AI is a bit of a tongue twister unless you say it very slowly. And also, Sophie was very kind to spend a lot of her time doing interview after interview after interview as we were testing our platform. So
How old is
decided.
Sophie?
She's 22. She's 22.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I think she interviewed for a job in a shoe shop about 30 times before we got it bang on how we wanted it to come across. So that's her prize for that. But what she does is she does what we like to call the heavy lifting. So she takes all of your candidates, she will screen them against the criteria that you set as a recruiter. She then invites those people that pass that screening to a first stage voice AI interview. Those that don't pass for screening are politely rejected, given and a reason given as to why. And those that do, they go for a voice AI, which they can do anytime they like. We've had customers or candidates, should I say, finishing a shift in hospitality at 2 a.m. and then knocking out a 5-star interview at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's proving from that respect that, being able to do interview when the candidate wants is key to helping them to get a great interview. And then she basically puts into a dashboard all of the candidates with their star ratings, allowing the human being recruiter to go through and shortlist or reject. So it's a key point to make this always a human being making that decision on who progresses to the second stage. And she does all that in a day, rather than 22 days that it takes generally to get a person from creating a job, posting it, and getting a shortlist. She does that in less than a day.
Yeah, I think that efficiency is really clear to see, isn't it? Straight off. And Ed Godwin, what are your guys' backgrounds? I'm interested because obviously you there must be a reason why you've done this. You're not just insane. You've done this for a reason.
No, we are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, we're both. So my background, I've been an HR director in the retail hospitality sector for the last 30 years. I started my career as the UK and international HRD for Monsoon Accessorize, the fashion retailer. And that's probably where I got my first, this was many, many years ago now, but I got my first taste of what real volume recruitment looks like. Trying to process 10,000 applications a week.
Yeah, I was going to say you have the scars to prove it, I presume.
Yeah. And basically all through this project has been a bit of a cathartic exercise for Ed and I, because I think as development goes, because we've got the scars and because we've worked in this sector with these issues for so many years, the features that we build are very, very targeted to the real problem.
And I was going to, it's really interesting, isn't it, when people build product based on their own pain rather than, a lot of people will look at pain points in the industry and kind of figure out what that might feel like or what that might be. But Ed Grimes, you've actually been there and sat there. And did we work together at one point? Or did we work in the same company at one point? Someone told me we might have. Were you at Carluccio's at one point in your career?
Yes.
Was that you? Was it Ed?
Yeah, that was me. So HR director just for a short time on an interim basis. Yeah.
I don't think I would. I think we missed.
I
was a director there up until about 2000. And, oh God, I don't even guess now, but a while ago. But yeah, interesting to know. And Ed Grimes, what about where have you been in your journey so far?
So similarly, but from an operational background. So I started my career at Greggs as a store manager, and then I was 10 years at Pret. Joined when Pret had 32 shops, and only when Canary Wharf was like a one tower only. I was my first shop. And then rose up to be head of operations ran all of Pret's out of London stores, from outside the M25 up to Scotland. I then moved to Eat as retail director. That's where I met Ed, and we worked together there for 10 years, double the size of the company, did lots of work on elevating the employee experience, how employees were recruited, rewarded, incentivized, given ownership for their stores and so on. Had a massive impact on like-for-like revenue as a result of that. And just to play to what Ed said earlier, what we're doing with Sophie is basically what we'd love to have had when we were doing all of that high volume recruitment back over the last 30 years, I guess.
I do look on with envy now from my career in ops, looking at, obviously the guys working it will just laugh at me, but I look back with envy thinking if I had some of these tools when we were doing our jobs back in the day, surely our lives would have been easy. But I do also get the feeling that hospitality has evergreen issues that seem to never go away. But it's if I was playing the role of the operator here and asking you what's the thing that sets Sophie out apart from the other guys who are trying to turn recruitment, give it more efficiencies, where would you say the key benefits are? Either of you can take that one.
So I'll start. I think one of the biggest advantages is that Sophie is so fast, so efficient, and we always talk about that. But what we talk less about and probably should talk more about is the quality of the interview. So we've spent a long time training Sophie how to conduct an expert interview, and the insights and the information that she gets from candidates is second to none. And I'd put it up against the recruitment team. We often do. And I include myself in that. She's very good. She interviews us regularly. She's very good at spotting the areas she needs to probe with me. So the quality of the interview is great. I think aside from that as well, the biggest challenge I've always faced with volume recruitment in hospitality and everywhere else I've been is that you are constantly battling the need for two things, right? You've got candidate experience over here and you've got efficiency over here, and the two are not joined together. You can either have a massive resource and give the candidate experience you want, or you have much more often the case, a low resource or smaller resource, and then the candidate experience suffers. Sophie means you don't have to choose because the candidate experience is outstanding. If you think about the sector, only 2% of people who apply for a job get an interview. The most common experience of someone who applies for a job in the UK, the most common, is that they never hear anything back.
Yeah. You see it all the time, don't you? It's one of the most common things you see on LinkedIn bouncing around when some poor person's got their open to work badge on and they're just saying, no one's getting back to me. It is disgusting, actually, isn't it? And I understand why, but it's really hard for the seeker.
We talk about this sometimes, and we, particularly in our sector, right? So your employees are also your customers in a lot of occasions.
Of course.
They've been coming into your store, buying a coffee every morning on their way to college, and they might decide they're going to come and work with you. Now, can you imagine if you were the boardroom when the customer experience manager stands up and says, 1,000 customers wrote to us last month. And you'll be delighted to hear we ignored 98% of them.
You'd
be shocked. You'd absolutely be shocked.
Yeah.
Quite rightly. Yet when we talk about candidates, that's fine.
That's really, I mean, it's a very obvious way to look at it, but it's also quite stark, isn't it? And when you think about me standing up in the boardroom saying, yeah, Sarah, I just didn't bother replying to 900 people. I just thought, they'll be all right. I mean, it's happened.
And it's not, we're not being down on recruitment teams, but this illustrates this point. People do not have the resource and the capacity to deliver the candidate experience that everyone would say is important. You can't do it on the resource. You're getting 300 applications a week. How many is it in for our client in Dubai?
2,500.
What? 2,500 a week?
2,500 for every job. No, every job. Every job you post.
There's one of her. So this isn't a criticism of anyone.
Yeah,
this is just saying that it's broken.
It doesn't almost make business sense either, does it? To have so much resource, actually, human resource. In the old days, we didn't have a choice, right? It was just as you said, you either did or you didn't do it. But now there is an answer, and I think to solve this problem. And Ed Grimes, I was looking through some of the notes, and I think one of the things that I'm really worried about when you look at these things is, can you keep it personal to the candidate, right? Can you still feel like you've been through that process, even though you've been through it with Sophie and not with Stephen, the real person?
Yeah. Well, we get asked that question quite a lot, actually, and people were saying, and often they'll say to us, how do candidates feel about being interviewed by AI other than by a person? And we'll say, well, actually, it's not AI or a person, it's AI or nothing, quite frequently, because there isn't the ability to interview everybody and reply to everybody. So we found in testing and with testing candidates and real candidates, that they love the fact that everybody who applies through our platform or through a job that's been created for our platform, everyone gets a response. So even if they're not passing the screening, they get a response to explain why, and that is bespoke to them. It's not generic phrases pulled from a database. It's tailored to them. And then if they go through the interview, they then get bespoke feedback. So they might not get the job, and they don't know from that feedback whether they have, because that's always a human being deciding whether they go through.
Yeah.
But they get told, for example, these are the things you did really well in the interview. These are the things that you could probably add some more flavor to. So if you've worked in customer service, perhaps you should talk about more about your experience in that particular field. And then it says, for your next interview, consider preparing some answers around these areas. That next interview might not even be with that company, might be with anybody, another, a competitor, anyone else they go to. But it's effectively giving them coaching tips. So when they've come away, they haven't been ignored at screening, they've not been ignored at interview, and they've got something tangible to go away and prepare. And we found that is, comparing that to hearing nothing.
For an employer who's doing kudos. I mean, we used to feel proud of ourselves if we, like you said, if we just got a letter back out to someone or a decline or an acceptance was a bit of a result for us. That was like, woo, we got back to someone, but there was no effort in it. It was just send it. And it was none of that personalization. It was literally a spam back to whoever we could get back to. So I think the employer brand piece is really uplifted by this as well, potentially.
It is. And I think the personalization also feeds into the interview. So as well as the personalized feedback, I mean, we've all, if you've been in HR for any period of time, we've all seen these platforms that you give it a list of 10 questions and it asks every candidate those 10 questions, and then it moves on to question 1 answer, question 2 answer. Things have moved on, and with Sophie, she personalizes every interview to the candidate. So she won't ask us 3 the same questions, because she's reading and understanding the CV. And she'll ask me about my time at Monsoon. She'll ask you about your time at Carluccio's, specific things that you've said. And not only that, when you give Sophie an answer, Sophie doesn't just write it down, then move on to the next question. She will ask you a follow-up question. If she needs to understand more about something you've said, she'll ask you a follow-up question. So these interviews, these are genuine interviews, not just simply captures of statements. It's conversational and it's personalized, not just to the job, but to the individual candidate as well.
And I was going to say, Ed Grimes, that actually when people question the AI, AI just doesn't do it on its own, right? It's like garbage in, garbage out, right? You guys have to feed it I mean, as you said, you've tested it with your daughter, Sophie, how many times you mentioned, but the fact is that you have to keep iterating, don't they, with the AI to get it to the point where it's actually delivering great experiences for the candidate as well. But that, I mean, and I find it weird that people don't understand that, because that's like training a human, right? So you take a human on resource and you spend hours and hours and hours, or you should do, keep making that person better and better and better. But we all know that that doesn't actually happen. We hire them, we put them in the chair, they maybe get a day's induction, then they're off and they're in. Whereas the AI, you're constantly learning, constantly talking to it. Is that something you really kind of obsessed with, Ed Grimes? Sorry to keep doing that.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. It's probably more Ed Godwin's field of expertise. So I'll give my summary, and he'll probably improve on what I say. But we've taught it, and Ed's written a very complicated matrix in the background, which he'll talk about, which basically teaches Sophie what a good answer looks like and whether a follow-up question is required. And that's basically the key part of our IP in this whole product. But the beauty of what Sophie can do is she can literally recruit for any job. So it's not like a lot of AI platforms you'll see where you say I'm recruiting for a software developer and you pull the software developer questions out of the database. Yeah. We've recruited for associate lawyers, hedge fund managers, kitchen porters, head chefs, you name it. And all you need to do is upload a job description, some key skills and behaviors and qualities you're looking for, and Sophie does the rest. So that's how she works. So it's not even a question of training. It's having this matrix in the background and then allowing Sophie to build and understand what is being said and what is being implied in terms of information that has been given. Ed, have I done a good job of describing that?
As always, you've done a wonderful job. I think it's, and people do overlook that. And I think there's a lot of, ChatGPT wrappers out there, which, just is selling someone an API into the basic ChatGPT model. This is not that. I mean, we've spent months and months and months and hours and hours and hours building a framework in which Sophie operates. So this isn't just raw AI. This is AI operating within a framework that we've built.
And weirdly, I have some experience now because we've built Totty, which is our WhatsApp integration from the podcast, right? So we use all of so from what we talk about today, that gets fed into our control panel on the back end of Totty. Then she will answer based on what we're talking about. And I have a developer who does that for me. And wow, he's a smart cookie. Yeah. And not cheap, I might add, if he's listening. But I understand there are ways of just doing a very plain integration, right? Isn't there, into ChatGPT or something like that, or a large language model, sorry. But then if you need to really kind of obsess with that detail and that code, wasn't it, to create those inquiries that you're actually getting really relevant answers and giving the best experience to the user on the other end. So I'm feeling your pain.
It's a constant battle. But it's a good one because she's very easy to train. I mean, I've worked in training and development for years, and she picks it up very quickly.
I know these robots so much better than these humans. But the question that must get thrown up though to you guys, because people are paranoid about the security part and making sure that actually the candidate data is safe, the journey's okay, and there's no weirdness going on. How do you protect that? Is that a tech thing, or is that about a bit of discipline from both sides?
No, it's mainly a tech thing, really. So, there's obviously the relevant privacy statements and so on to sign up to when candidates join. Everything is fully encrypted, both at transit and at rest. It's stored in the UK, AWS, so it's very secure. We've also just been through I'm going to try and say this without twisting my tongue, the EU AI Act compliance, which comes to force in February. So we're fully compliant. Yeah. We're fully compliant with that. So we're about to hopefully land a big client in France. So we had to make sure we were compliant with that anyway. But it's good practice to be even here. So that is we use I can't think of the correct terminology, but it's the same level of data security that online banks would use. So if you're banking with Lloyds online, it's exactly the same level of encryption. So we're pretty comfortable with that, and that we're compliant when we know we're compliant with the EU AI, which is pretty strong. Yeah, so that's
are those kind of questions you face from operators? I'm just interested, when you end up in a deal scenario and you're chatting with someone in the room, is it those kind of barriers you're talking about, security, quality?
So it is. I mean, it is data security is one. I mean, some of our customers are like ISO 27001 accredited. Now, we're not expecting us to be as strong as them. We're not in the same space, but we do have to complete security questionnaires, which we pass to show that we've got the right level of data for their candidates' information and for them. Yeah, but it's probably It's one of the most common questions. The other is around the one I referenced earlier about AI versus a human, that kind of stuff. You never know, really. Often when you're pitching to someone, it's the completely random question that comes up.
I know the answer to this question, but do you two feel like that finally AI is being understood a bit more in terms, because I spent the back end of last year, I mean, Ed Grimes, I saw you at a few of the events, talking about AI on occasion, but people are getting confused between automation and AI and the different ways it can implement. Do you feel like actually the industry, because hospitality is always a bit slower to grasp than everybody else, do you feel like that understanding of what AI can do for them on a daily basis is slowly starting to bubble?
Yeah,
I think it is. Sorry, are you speaking, Ed? So I think it is. I think it is being understood. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, though. So I think there's an understanding that they have to do something different in the hospitality world to get through the level of candidates and get to the right candidates as quickly as possible. That's clear. But I think there is a lot of misunderstanding about what platforms do what and which is a better one. Interestingly, we had a call with a company this morning who one of their divisions is using a competitor of ours. And if you bear in mind, this is a big hospitality brand, and they have said that the Gen Z candidates like to use messaging, like to write as part of the interview rather than speak. So that's why their brand, their division in the US has chosen a particular careful not words I use, particular company that does that.
You did very well.
I did, didn't I? And we were, Ed and I were saying, well, hang on a second. These are customer-facing roles that you're asking these Gen Z people to do. You don't text your coffee order to someone behind a counter and they text back and say, "Would you like oat milk?" It's not like that. So we were saying, well, and my son stands up. He's Gen Z. He stands up at school and does a presentation, so they can do it. But I think there's a fear that it's such a desperation to get staff, and let's do everything we can to get candidates to work for us, even if that has a detrimental effect on what the customer's going to experience. Because however, whatever year we're in, whatever customers or whatever type of candidate we're recruiting, we want candidates in hospitality to be able to speak to customers ultimately. So I think there's a misunderstanding. So what I'm trying to say is a definite desire to use it, but I think there can be a tendency to go too far to make it simple for the candidate, and that's inevitably going to have a detrimental impact on the customer. I would say this, but I think our platform really looks after the candidate because no one is ignored, everyone gets feedback. But at the same time, it's testing the skills of the candidate so they give a good customer experience. And I think that's where the balance should be.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And I think AI is here to help. Yes, there's a lot of use cases where you probably shouldn't use it yet, where it might not be ready. And if you're not willing to invest, I mean, a lot that you guys who are, I'm not going to call it off the shelf, but you're creating white label solutions for these guys to help them. I think stop doing the hard yards yourselves, right? Start looking around the market and looking for people that can really solve these problems. Like, Ed Godwin's spent time writing this code for you and helping out, just test it, have a go at it. Are you feeling the same, Ed?
Yeah, I am. And I think it's back to those. I think there is a building appetite, I would say. There's still, I think, and this isn't helped by different companies, there's a lot of AI badging going on. So AI has been around years. Yeah. The first ATS platform, I used AI because it had a search bar in the top right.
Yeah.
And so now what you've got are a lot of products that are sort of powered by AI, but are using keyword lookups. And I think where what people are starting to understand that not all our AI is built the same. Right? Gen AI is very different to keyword AI.
And also the source of data, because how do you kind of address so in interviews I probably have in the past had some form of unconscious bias in terms of I've interviewed someone and maybe in my head I'm looking for a waiter that looks like the waiter that I have in Birmingham and I kind of want to match that personality. How the hell do you get around that with, I mean, I suppose, because does your AI have an opinion or any kind of, how do you get around bias? Do you get asked that question at all?
We do get asked a lot. And the answer quite simply is that she has no human bias because she's not human.
Yes.
She doesn't care. She doesn't know. She doesn't understand. So this is, and I think where people, there's a fear that builds, and it's a fear that should exist around predictive AI. And there's a classic example which is often used in this when we're talking about recruitment around a certain delivery company that brings parcels to your door every day. And they built a predictive AI that looked at historical hiring decisions and was able to apply the learnings from that to predict the likelihood of future success. Now, because that AI had been taught using all the historical data, it was pre-built with and perpetuated every single bias that existed through the previous decision. So they built an AI that said white men at a certain age are going to be successful because they always have been. Now, that is a dangerous use of AI. So you should always check out how is the AI been trained. And if it's been trained on historical human decisions, it is likely to perpetuate bias. However, if, like Sophie, you're not trained on historical human decisions, you are trained objectively on how to ask good questions, how to look at a job description and extract what the skills and competency requirement is. How do you understand when a candidate gives you an example, whether that example is good? These are objective assessments. Now, once you've trained Sophie how to do that, she will consistently apply it to every single interview that she does and never waver. Whereas a human will give a slightly different experience at 5 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening after they've done 14 interviews that day and they can't remember who said what. They are more at risk of the subconscious mind taking over and these unconscious biases creeping up.
100%. And Ed Grimes, I did a lot of openings, probably like you, since you were at Pret at number 30. I'm guessing you did a few openings there. And when you're doing openings, you are literally, they will do a recruitment day, or recruitment days. And those days are horrific. If you're in at 9 a.m., you're going to get the job, no problem. And if you're the interviewer, you're probably going to find you're lucky if you get the best candidate, right? So, but then as you hit 3, 4 o'clock, some of them went on to 8 o'clock in the evening. God help those people that were, and I'm not dismissing anybody who did this because we all did it, but it was very difficult and you're distracted, you're tired, you're hungry, you've met a lot of people, you're finding it hard. Is this I'm presuming takes away a lot of that pain potentially, and you can still be structured with it and approach this in the right fashion, but does it not make that kind of candidate search when you're doing something like an opening a lot quicker and easier?
It's massively quicker because the difference. And I think just before I answer that, I think I just want to be clear that a lot of discussion around AI, and this is like the world generally at the moment. So you can only have extreme views, right? So it's either AI is best or humans are best, and you can't be in between.
That's just Twitter you're talking about, but
possibly. Just I'm going to get on the soapbox now. Now, that is not the question that companies should be asking. They shouldn't be asking, is an AI going to be better than the human? The question should be, will that human be better by deploying AI and using AI to supercharge their skills? And that is what Sophie does. She's not replacing anybody. What she's doing is enabling recruiters to spend time on the candidates that are more likely to be successful because they've been pre-screened, they've been interviewed. So this isn't about either or. This is about how businesses looking at ways to improve their human performance by deploying AI to take care of the heavy lifting. That's what Sophie does. She's not replacing anyone. So I'm not sure what the original question was now.
No, that's fine. That was just talking about openings and whatnot. And Ed Grimes, inclusivity is obviously high on the agenda for everybody who's looking at recruiting now. My youngest son is autistic, and I panic when he has to go into interview world and how he'll get through. But I actually think him dealing with this interface, I suppose, into recruitment is a lot safer for him. As in, I feel like he'll recognize it a lot quicker and enjoy it, find it a more pleasurable experience. But B, I think, as I mentioned before, some of those biases might go away a little bit and we might find the right candidate.
Yeah, no, definitely. We get asked that question a lot. And I think also the fact that the candidate is able to do the interview when it suits them. So they're not being obliged to go into an office at a certain time or join a Zoom call at a certain time. They can do it, whenever they feel like it, before the deadline, before the closing date, at a location of their choice. I think that seems to have had a positive impact on interview performance because people are more relaxed when they're doing interviews. I mean, I've been recruiting from the Middle East for a couple of years, and I always like to tell the story of because I was asking someone to join an interview at 10 o'clock in the morning, they would say yes. They wouldn't say, oh, I can't do it, I'm at work. They just say yes. And then we joined a Zoom call, and this guy would be in the back of a walk-in fridge in a hotel restaurant. they're trying to do is interview. Now that has completely gone. So now candidates, if they want to do the interview at 3 a.m, they can, and they do well, and it's because they're relaxed. And of course, because it's all verbal, so that the interview questions are written on the screen, but at the same time as Sophie asks them, and then the candidate literally speaks back. So we find in most cases that is accessible to everybody. Not always. There's always an option to speak to the recruitment team if the candidate wants to do the interview in a different way. But we think we've made that as accommodating as possible. Yeah.
No, I think it's fantastic, and I think you must have faced certain challenges out. The building challenge, I'm sure, is just it's tech, right? You're constantly iterating, constantly looking at it. What are the key challenges? We mentioned it a few times when you're going into boardrooms with where are you aligning with the operators on the challenges? What you're being asked to do and what you in the future need to deliver on, or what you can deliver on now. What are the main themes you're seeing? And that either of you can, or both of you, comment there.
I'll start. Let's just caveat the tech hasn't been built by Ed and I. We've got a really good tech team, so we're not going to pretend to be techies. We've got the idea, but we got a great team. We've built that and just managed to turn our ideas and what we're trying to deliver into something that actually works and improve it. In terms of challenges, it really depends, and it depends who you speak to. If you speak to some recruitment teams are obviously resistant to what AI is going to do and how it might impact their jobs in their mind adversely. So you have to try and navigate that. Operators are generally positive because they're feeling the real life pain. I think and other people like maybe the CPOs might be worried about AI bias and how the people and the marketeer might be worried about how people feel about being interviewed by AI. But I think when we get the opportunity to be asked those questions, we can give us similar answers to what we've given you, and it's there's always a balance, and it's an AI actually, as Ed has said already, is enabling people to do a better job, to reach more candidates, to give a better candidate experience. So it's enhancing their role rather than having a negative impact. So all we ask is the opportunity to be asked those questions, really, and I think we can answer them and demonstrate them. And if you know what Ed and I have been like when we've been in operational HR roles, our aim has always been to improve the candidate experience, improve employees' life within the businesses we're working in, and then to have a positive impact on the customer at the same time. And I think we're quite good at expressing that and giving examples of how Sophie does that. So we just like to have the opportunity to do so. Yeah.
And I think Ed Godwin, that's so key, isn't it? Your backgrounds. I know sometimes people dine out on it a bit too much, probably me, having worked in the industry, then going to the other side as it would be. But I think it's absolute when you this particular product, I think, because it's the start of your relationship with an employee, and even if they're not joining, as Ed said at the start, it's a potential customer you could be upsetting. I think your experiences is so relevant, isn't it? What does the future look like? Looking at what you know about the industry and what you guys have experienced, what does the future look like in terms of what the product might look like going forward?
I think there are a whole wealth of opportunities for us to improve experiences for both employers and employees, but we have to sort of curb ourselves to not set off and to change the world. But I
would create every day if I could, but
but I think talent management is ripe for revolution because everything is so cumbersome and so inefficient, and so things like internal career paths, development interviews, the ability to use powerful AI tools to create personalized development plans, things like this. There is so much that it's one of those things where we always have to look at the average experience when we're looking at where AI can help, because we've all got examples of people who have an amazing experience with an employer. Like they've got the development plan, they've got the career pathing, they've got the succession plan. But unless you can say that's happening for everybody and that's available to everybody, then it's not part of your offer. And I think too often we're too focused on comparing automated solutions with the very best individual case example that you can think of, whereas the actual average experience of an individual,
or the reality,
or as we like to call it,
because that's all know. We've all worked in the industry. We all know that the best. You always lean back on the best experiences you've had. You always talk about the best way to the best manager, the best recruitment process you did, the best opening. But the reality is, it is pretty average outside of those peaks and troughs. It's pretty inconsistent, and delivery can be difficult, purely based because we're dealing with humans, right? We're not a manufacturing plant. We're a experiential-led restaurant or bar.
I mean, I'm thinking back to Ed and I's distant past now, but we had exactly this challenge when we both worked at Eat. So Eat used to operate solely with manual coffee machines, which, if you are a highly trained expert barista, you will make a better cup of coffee than if you use an automatic machine. Okay, but what we were trying to say is, yes, but you have to look at the estate, look at the staff turnover, look at how many people we're bringing into the business, how many new sites are opening. This highly skilled champion barista is one person, and they're great on a manual machine. But if you want a consistently better coffee, then an automatic machine will deliver that, because not everyone is as great as this expert barista over here. And we need to design solutions that raise the average, not compare with the exceptional cases. So we brought in automated coffee machine, and the average standard of the coffee went up from the manual, because it's not just about the tool, it's about the people that are using it. And you've got to be realistic about where you are currently. And I think those same sort of rules apply to us today, in that, yes, if you've had an amazing experience with a human recruitment process, you've been sent gifts and you've been invited, brilliant. But that is not the experience that the world is having. The world is being ignored. The world is not hearing back. The world is getting feedback, which consists only of, if you haven't heard within 2 weeks, then I'm afraid you've been unsuccessful. Well, that's not feedback. That's just a delayed bullet. You're not learning anything from that.
It's very interesting, very relevant. Yesterday, I was in Oaxaca, and I was talking to one of the managers there, and we were talking. They don't use this product, but we were talking about this company called Louis, who make instant cocktails. So they put the machine on the back of the bar. You put a can in. You pull the lever and it makes a perfect pour every time. Yeah. I was thinking, oh God, imagine all the mixologists rolling in their graves thinking, how dare you? But you know what it's like in casual dining for cocktails, for that example. They don't want a mixologist. They can't afford them. They want something simple they can offer that's the same everywhere you go. And I think that's the solution, right? And that's basically, without comparing you to a cocktail machine, but you are providing that consistency and accuracy across their estate that will support their employer brand and support their employee experience and save them some cash, which is, in the world we're living in, is fairly important, Ed Grimes, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's probably a good example of that, which we're working with State of Play, which you'll know, the Jingo bounce.
Jingo, is that it?
Yeah, that's them. Yeah. And they were our very first customer, so they went through a lot of pain with us as we were building the product. We gave really good feedback. So Gemma, a few weeks ago, Ed and I had a call with Gemma, the head of recruitment, and we got to the point where she was comfortable how Sophie was working, and she said, so tomorrow or tonight, we're sending 5 candidates to their OGE experiences, trial shifts, who haven't met me. And they've had no interaction with me whatsoever, other than me to WhatsApp them and say, you must be at Old Street Roundabout venue at 5:00. I thought, oh Christ, this is a real test of what Sophie can do. So Ed quite rightly asked her. She said, well, what could we expect? What would you normally expect if you had met them? And she said, well, normally I'm lucky if half of them turn up, half the candidates turn up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I chose number 5, as she told us. There's 2.5 people turn up. And she said, and of those, he said, how many would normally get the job? And she said, probably 1. Okay, fine. So we got to beat 1 was our sort of takeaway from that call. And anyway, Saturday morning, about 7:00, we both woke up, not together, but we both woke up separately. Yes. And we had this email from Gemma to say, look, I don't normally write emails this late or this early on a Saturday morning, but I just wanted to let you know that of the 5 candidates, all 5 have been offered a job. And one of them has actually been offered a job more senior to the one she went for. She went for a kitchen porter job. She got offered a receptionist. Well, I mean, for us, that was a real accolade. But I think what that showed us is that Sophie had been so consistent in the type of questions she'd been asking, the standard of the interview, that she'd been able to get to the real 5 candidates that match the brand values and match what Gemma was looking for, and be able to do that without any input from Gemma. All Gemma had to do was create the job and then shortlist for candidates and say, send these 5 for trial shift. So that was That's what we're about.
Yeah, the proof in the pudding, right? I mean, it's so interesting. I wish we could have another hour, but we can't. But look, guys, if people are listening, and we have quite a big people audience in our audience here, what's the best way to get hold of you guys, and how can they just get you in the room and be part of that conversation to start with?
Yeah, so well, the best way is probably through our website or through our email addresses, which we can share. I don't know how you send it out. We can share those with you if you like, but the website is www.talentunlimited.io. And on there, you can book a call, and that comes straight through to Ed and I. And then we can we have a half an hour pitch. We show customers how the product works. We then like to set people up with an account. They can use our product for free. Generally, we say, well, why don't you try it on one of your jobs you're recruiting? Maybe play around with doing some internal interviews so you're happy with what it's like first, and then get going and test it on a job. And then that's worked 100% of the time so far. So people have loved it. See what it can do, and then they onboard us properly. So that's the best way. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, long may that last.
And Ed Godwin, are we allowed to stalk you on LinkedIn? Are the guys allowed to come and reach out to you and just have a chat to you on there if they're looking for you?
Please do. Yeah, I mean, we've got a company page on there, Talent Unlimited, but also Ed Grimes, Ed Godwin. Yeah, just connect with us, talk to us. We're just as interested to hear from AI skeptics as we are supporters. We love the opportunity to present to all kinds, and just even if it's just have a conversation about what are the challenges. We're open.
Lovely. Well, I think hopefully you'll get to meet Sophie soon, and we'll have Poppy on the next episode if we can get her.
she'll make a point of being there, I'm sure.
She's gone now. It's a shame. But lovely to see you guys. We're going to see you at service. This will go out next week.
Yeah,
so we'll see you.
We'll be there. Yeah.
All right, great. We shall see you there. And guys, if you want to get in touch, if you don't speak out to the two Eds personally, you can contact us at Tech on Toast, and we can connect you. And that's it. And we shall see you all next week, guys. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.